Hello my friends, and welcome to the second video in this series where we shall be discussing JavaScript and how to set things up. JavaScript is a fun and easy to use programming language. It is also known as a scripting or an interpreted language, and that's because your computer runs JavaScript code from top to bottom, line to line. JavaScript code does not require that you compile them before you run them, unlike some other programming languages like Java or C++ that require compilation before your computer can run the code. Compiling just gives another version of the same code. So this means that developers who use JavaScript can actually develop faster. So as you code in JavaScript and as you make changes to your code, you can easily and instantly see the effects of the changes that you make. JavaScript is also known as the language of the web, and that's because it integrates seamlessly with HTML and CSS, which are the building blocks of web development. So by combining HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can create stunning websites or web applications with very rich functionality. With JavaScript, you can create interactive forms, validate user input, manipulate HTML elements on a web page, handle events such as button clicks or mouse events, and even make asynchronous requests to servers. And all these things, we shall be talking about them in this course. Another advantage of using JavaScript is that it is compatible with all the modern web browsers: Safari, Firefox, Edge, Chrome, and all of those browsers use JavaScript. In fact, we can even write JavaScript code directly within our browsers. And so this also means that JavaScript code will work consistently across different platforms, and that is very cool. Alright, so we've talked about the awesomeness of JavaScript as a programming language. We can use JavaScript to build modern web applications or website. We can use it to build even mobile applications. We can use it to automate stuff. We can use it to do a whole lot of things. Now the next question is, how do we set things up? And by that, I mean, where do we actually write JavaScript codes, and how does our system or computer understand JavaScript code? For our computer to understand JavaScript code, we have to install a program called Node. So think of Node as a dictionary. For example, the English dictionary. The English dictionary can help us to understand English words. In that same way, Node as a program can help our computer to understand JavaScript codes. Now, in order to get Node into our computer, we need to visit the website. So we'll open up our browser and we'll visit www.nodejs.org. And right here, we can see that it says Node.js is an open source cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment. So what that means is that Node can help our system to understand JavaScript, basically. So we click on here, the place that says recommend for most users. And then it says, do you want to allow downloads on nodejs.org? Now you should allow this download to happen if you don't already have Node installed on your system. But for me, I already have Node.js installed on my system, so I'm not going to install Node the second time. So I'm going to click on cancel. Now, after installing Node, we have to check if Node has been properly installed in our computer. So to do that, we open up our terminal, that's if you're on Mac, or you open up the command prompt if you're on Windows. So right here, I'm on my terminal. So I'm going to type Node, and as soon as I click enter on my keyboard, now we'll see the Node version that I have here. It says, welcome to Node.js version 20.11.0. So this is the version of the Node.js that I installed on my system. So if you see this message after typing Node, it means you have installed Node correctly into your computer. Alright, and now that we've installed Node, where do we actually start to write JavaScript code? First of all, within this terminal where I've installed Node.js, we can begin to write out JavaScript code. So I can say something like 2. When I click enter, you see it gives me 2 back. And this is the 2 it gave me back in yellow color. If I say 2 plus 2 You can see it gives me 4. And so these are simple JavaScript codes. In fact, I can say something like console the log I am learning JavaScript, like this. Click on enter and it gives me back I am learning JavaScript. So you can see we can write JavaScript code right there in the terminal. And that's because we've installed Node. But remember, before you can start writing out JavaScript code in your terminal, you have to first of all type Node so that it goes into the Node runtime environment, and then you can begin to write JavaScript code. Where is the next place where we can write JavaScript code? The next place we can write JavaScript code is in our browser. I use Safari browser a lot, and so I'm going to open up the Safari browser. This is my Safari browser, and this is where we downloaded the Node.js from, all right? And so I'm going to click on Control on my keyboard and then click, because I'm using a Mac, and I'm going to click the inspect element. If you're using Windows, you can just right click and then use something like inspect element. So I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to go to my console, and then right here, let me zoom in a bit. So right here, I can begin to write JavaScript code. So I can say something like 2, and it gives me 2 back. I can say 3 minus 3, it gives me 0. I can say console the log. You can log a message and say I am a great guy, like so, and it gives me back I'm a great guy. In fact, I can also put up an alert on my system. So I can say alert, I am learning JavaScript, and it gives me back, here is an alert that says I am learning JavaScript, and then I can close this. All right, so you can see right here in our browser under this console tab, we can write JavaScript code. Now we've seen that we can write JavaScript code right there in our terminal or command prompt. We can also write it inside of our browser here under the console tab. But these places are not great places to write our JavaScript code. So to write great JavaScript code that we're going to use to build our website or web applications and things like that, we have to use something called an IDE. An IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, and is a fancy word for a code editor. So you can think of an IDE as a Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word is used to format text, so you can make your text bolder, you can give it a color, you can make it smaller and things like that. In that same way, an IDE can be used to write code. So it makes writing code efficient for you. For this our course, the IDE of choice that we're going to be using is called Visual Studio Code. It's a great IDE to use, especially for JavaScript. So how do we get Visual Studio Code right into our system? Well, we have to visit the website. So I'm going to create a new tab here, and then I'm going to say visualstudio.microsoft.com right here. So this is the website, and then we can scroll down. And here we have Visual Studio Code. Right here it says download, and so you can download the one for your own operating system. If you're using Windows, you can click here to download. If you're using a Mac, you can click here to download. If you're using a Linux, you can click here to download. I'm using a Mac, and so I should click here to start download immediately, but I already have Visual Studio Code installed on my system. But let me click and see what it shows me. So you can see that there's going to be an automatic downloading right here. Okay, right here you can see VS Code is downloaded, but I don't want to download this because I already have it on my system. Okay, so I'm going to stop the download and clear things out. All right, so since you don't have Visual Studio Code on your system already, you should go ahead and download it, and then after you're going to open it up. So after you download Visual Studio Code into your computer, this is most likely the first page you're going to see under the Welcome tab. So you're going to see how to go to a new file, open, and all of those things. You can just ignore all those things. And so right here is where we're going to start to write our JavaScript code. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, close this Welcome tab, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to say open a folder. Let me zoom in a bit so we can see this clearly. So I'm going to say open a folder, and it shows me this stuff right here. So right now I want to open a folder in my document. As of now, I don't have any folder for our project. So I'm going to click on new folder. So I'm going to call it JavaScript Masterclass. And then I'm going to click on create. So now that I've created this folder, I'm now going to open it up in my VS Code. And you can see we now have this folder right here. I'm going to push this down here a bit so we can see that we have the folder right here. You can also create a folder for the course by first of all going to your downloads or your desktop or your documents folder, and then right there you create the folder that you want to be able to work with for the project. And then when you come to Visual Studio Code right here, you can go up here if you're Mac and then click on File and then choose Open a Folder. So when you click on here, then you can search for that particular folder that you've already created. So if it's inside of your document, you search for the folder right here. If it's inside of your desktop, you search for the folder right here. I have nothing on my desktop at the moment. Now if you go to your downloads, you can also search for the document there if you created the folder in your downloads. So that's how you can do it. But right now we've already created this JavaScript Masterclass folder. And remember, if you're using Windows, you can also click on here to actually open up that folder. So inside of here, we'll start working with HTML and JavaScript and even CSS, and we'll see how they work together. We'll see how we'll begin to write our code in the next video.